Okay.
Welcome, everyone, in this webinar organized by Franza Women. We are pleased to be hosting this webinar on supporting trans women experiencing homelessness. We are also honoring the Pride Month, which is taking place in June and celebrates LGBTIQ identities, and also it's an opportunity to raise awareness of issues affecting LGBTIQ individuals. So our topic today is supporting trans women experiencing homelessness, and it's a topic that has come up frequently from our members, the members of the Franza Women Community of Practice. Many have expressed concerns that at times they feel uncertain or not fully equipped to provide inclusive care. So we decided to organize a webinar to ensure that trans women are not excluded from women-focused services, either explicitly, which is often the case, or through not unwelcoming environment. So that's why we brought this webinar to share with you a good practice and highlighting what an inclusive support looks like, and we will also be sharing practical tools on how to better support trans women experiencing homelessness. So we are joined by Natalie Haug, who brings her expertise and experience from working as a social worker and social educator in Frankfurt am Main. The format is the usual webinar format, so we will hear Natalie's presentation, which will be followed by a Q&A session. You can send your comments in the chat box or in the Q&A box. Any questions you might have for Natalie, or any suggestions or comments for us at Franza Women on how we can help in your work in this area. So I give now the floor to Natalie. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to this webinar to talk about the topic of how to support transgender people or transgender women in emergency housing assistance. As already said, my name is Natalie Haug. I am a social worker in Frankfurt, Germany. And I'm working in an emergency housing facility for homeless women. I'm also working part-time as a diversity trainer and a lecturer at the university. So today I will tell you something about the recommendations we developed in Germany to the topic of supporting transgender people in emergency housing facility or emergency housing assistance, and about how we are trying to put this into practice in the facility I am working for. So I've also been invited to the Fianza Forum in 2023 to take part in a workshop to this topic also. And my presentation from there is kind of still up to date, I think. So you will also see this presentation today. So I will start with this now. So my presentation is called Best Practice, Supporting Transgender People in Emergency Housing Facilities in Germany. It will include those 6 points. Transgender issues as an increasing phenomenon in emergency housing assistance, a gap in principles and guidance, implementing appropriate policies at different levels in order to meet needs. Then I will talk about the practical experiences of supporting transgender women in Frankfurt, a case-by-case approach preferable to ensure respectful and optimal outcomes, and at last, the question of special or not. So I will start with this quote because the human rights are the basis of our profession as social workers. And here the human rights are applied in relation to sexual orientation and gender identity. And I think that makes clear again why we cannot accept any discrimination or discrimination against queer people. So studies have verified that transgender people are vulnerable to discrimination and violence in many areas of society. Issues related to transgender people are becoming increasingly important for emergency housing assistance also. Early studies have shown that there is a connection between gender self-identification and the risk of becoming homeless. There are only few studies about this topic in Germany and in Europe. There is one latest study from Berlin, which I really recommend because I think it's really good. It's published 2025, and it's also published in English. So here you can see the link. I don't know, maybe later on the presentation maybe can send to you, and then you can see or you can have a look at this study because I think it's good. It shows many perspectives, different perspectives from queer homeless people, from professionals who are working with homeless people, and also shows the problems in the structural problems in society and in homeless assistance system. In this figure, I found it in another study from ILGA, a European study from 2023, and here you can see the percentage of queer people who are experiencing housing difficulties, and in the numbers you can see, or the percentage you can see, it's really high for intersex people and for trans and non-binary people also. So the German system for inpatient emergency housing and emergency homeless shelters is currently organized predominantly along binary gender lines. Those seeking assistance are distinguished according to their assigned sex, the supposedly natural cisgender, and would be accommodated in facilities for homeless men and women. The danger arises that social exclusions of transgender people are reinforced if service providers and staff are insufficiently informed on the subject. So how to support clients who define themselves as transgender within the system? There were no overarching guidelines or frameworks for handling this issue in Germany until 2022. No, until 2020. Sorry. And so in 2020 and 21, a group of experts from emergency housing facilities, academia, and law developed recommendations for actors in emergency housing facilities in order to the BAGW, it's the federal working group in Germany of helping for homeless people. And the recommendations you can also find under this link. It's also published in English. So, and I was also a part of this expert group. So, and in the recommendation, it is described that it is important to raise awareness of issues of transgender people at different levels within the homeless sector. So the first level is the individual action of professionals. So that means in general that professionals should develop a so-called rainbow competence. The concept of the rainbow competence was developed by a professor at the Frankfurt University, Professor Ulrike Schmauch. And it says that rainbow competence refers to the ability of a social worker to deal with issues of sexual orientation and gender identity in a professional, unprejudiced, and non-discriminatory manner. So that means in practical work that professionals should have access to and interest in knowledge of gender diversity and of the use of appropriate terms and of the particular life challenges faced by transgender people. That there should be a platform for discussion in which gender self-identification is recognized, respected, and supported. To offer help to obtain access to additional support, especially when access could be impeded by their transgender identity. That means to give information, to discuss and to do educational work with residents, guests, or clients about the topic. The second level is the structural institutional level. That means we will have a look at facility concepts. So they should be evaluated and adapted with regard to sexual and gender diversity. This could include structural alterations to sanitary facilities and shared sleeping accommodation. So that's not always possible, I know this, but maybe someday. This could include team training sessions, the development of a common team approach, the revision of guiding principles and concepts. This could include cooperation with specialist transgender facilities. This could include the development of specific services for transgender people, for example, by advertising places explicitly for this target group publicly within the helping system. The visualization of gender diversity within the facility, for example, by placing symbols such as stickers and flyers at the entrance and in the offices. So in the recommendations, there are many more points, experiences and explanations to the topic described, but we don't have enough time to talk about all that. So now I'd like to switch to the practical example and to tell you a bit about the facility I am working for and about the process of opening up our facility for transgender women. So I'll give you just a short description of the facility I'm working for. It is a facility for homeless women, respectively for women in special social difficulties in the city center of Frankfurt in Germany. So it is divided into an inpatient area where homeless women can live in single apartments temporarily in a setting offering social assistance. And the other part is an emergency overnight area with single rooms, but shared common rooms and bathrooms, where women can stay for several days in acute emergency situations, and where they can get counseling if they would like to have it. So, practical experiences of supporting transgender women in Frankfurt. Between 2020 and 2022, more and more admission requests from authorities, counseling centers, and transgender women themselves, especially for the emergency overnight accommodation, came. So it turned out that accessing women's facilities, especially to emergency overnight accommodation with shared sanitary facilities, is often difficult for transgender women seeking help. So our staff arranged for an externally consultant to lead an offsite seminar on the topic of the summer of 2022. Within the framework of a reflection process, some of the main questions arising were: is it possible to accommodate transgender women in the emergency overnight area with shared sanitary facilities? If so, how? What are the limits and who sets them? How can the facility support transgender women who are at the very beginning of their transition process and who have not yet changed their marital status or do not want to do so? How do other residents perceive and interact with the transgender women, and how can they be supported and potentially make more aware of transgender issues? What changes are needed in how the facility is set up and its house rules? How do staff deal with their own uncertainties? What support do they need? What special requirement might there be in a residential group setting compared to single flats? Participants indicated that they found it particularly difficult to deal with the topic of setting rules on assessing transgender women's physical characteristics. So, who should determine that a transgender woman seeking to be admitted was too masculine or feminine enough? There were no clear answers to some questions yet, so it turned out, but despite some remaining uncertainties, facilities could nevertheless begin to be more open to admitting transgender women. So it was decided that an admission of transgender women should be made possible in every area. An admission should no longer be rejected as a matter of principle. The following criteria, among others, were developed for this purpose. The person's gender self-determination as a woman should be recognized in principle and not determined solely on the basis of official identity documents and/or physical characteristics. If a transgender woman is admitted who is possibly still read as male, it is discussed with her how she herself and the staff would like to deal with possible questions from or even difficult interactions with other residents. The overall setup of the facility and the house rules, which all clients have to sign upon admission, should be revised and supplemented with an express reference to the fact that the facility is a discrimination-free space. So, and staff members are offered training to the topic of gender and sexual diversity. So that was just a short summary of the process of how we try to open up our facility reflectively. Meanwhile, we made some really good experiences in admitting transgender women in all areas of the facility. And since we open up our facility, there are many people who who tell us, who try to admit to our facility. Many other counseling centers are calling us, and it's really published that we are one of few facilities who are dealing with this topic, and where transgender women can come and getting help. So in my opinion, as a conclusion, it is the question of special or not again and again. So the recommendation and the practical experiences are describing the field of tension between possible special needs of transgender people, and at the same time that generalized special treatment is not always either desired or the best approach. It may be more efficient to break with binary gender structures and ideas and integrate transgender people into existing emergency housing services instead of reproducing exclusionary structures or automatically resorting to individual placements. A participatory and anti-discriminatory approach to transgender people should always be based on the individual needs and wishes of transgender people themselves. It should combine the possibilities of specific shelter on the one hand and integration into existing services by rethinking and reflecting on existing binary gender structures on the other. So at last, I will give you the following quote from a poem from Pat Parker, maybe for discussion, which is one of my favorite quotes for my students in my seminars and workshops. So I think it is possible to compare the term Black with the term queer in this context. So that was my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for this presentation. It was excellent, and you shared so much information. I don't know if you see it on the screen, but there are clapping coming from our audience as well. Just want to say right away that we will be sharing and sending the links to the studies you mentioned. The Berlin study, and I think if we have now, I don't know if I understood it correctly, but if you have these recommendations in English as well,
yes.
I think that would be a very useful resource
yes,
as well. So we can send it to the participants. Now I would like to invite everyone everyone who has a question to write them in the question and answer box, or share your experience and in the chat box. It's a good occasion to ask your questions from Natalie, who has expertise in this field. In the meantime, I just would like to maybe start with a question on the staff. You mentioned that the staff receives training, and I think that's a very important part of making the services obviously more inclusive. But I wonder, how is the dynamics with the residents? How are they sensitized, or how they are responding?
So first of all, I think there are many uncertainties of the staff dealing with the topic of how will clients or how will residents deal with this. And as I can say, in our facility, there were really good really good. It's really going really good. So there are sometimes there were some questions maybe about like they were wondering, sometimes they were wondering, okay, we had one woman who was at the really beginning at her transition, and she was living in in one of our apartments. And first of all, they were sometimes they were have some questions, and then they came and said, it's like, does a man live now here? And but not, it was not like they were like really negative or something, but they were just like wondering, and they just were asking. So, and then we we tried to explain, no, it's like a person, it's a woman, and she's feeling like a woman, and she has not the opportunity to live at this place where she has been, and she cannot live as a woman. So we try to give her a place where she can live like that. And first of all, it was okay then. So like this, and then, but I have to say, this woman, she was like, she made also a big transition, and she was changing clothes, she was changing her name, and then it was more and more like read as a woman also. So they can also see the changing. So, and they can understand, okay, there's happening something. But it's, as in my experiences, I don't know if it's working all the time. So it's just like what's happening in my facility. They were sometimes they were asking, but sometimes they were just like, okay, okay, we have to think about this, but I think it should be okay because this person is here, and maybe she has also the same problems as we have. They also said that they were sometimes in my appointments. I was talking to other women. They were saying, I don't know, I cannot understand this really, but I think she has all the same problems I have, so should be okay. Sometimes it was like this. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. I'm just checking now the questions box. And the first one is about the main challenges expressed by homeless trans women.
Sorry, I didn't see this.
Yeah. You can also see it on your screen, but I can read it out. So, yeah. What are the main challenges expressed by homeless trans women?
The main challenges?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it's a really big question. So I think it's on the one hand, it's like the same challenges all homeless women have. Yeah. On the other hand, it's there's something special, and that's why I tried to explain this at the end of my presentation. I think homeless, in general, transgender people or women are really afraid, or there could be it's a big danger that they are losing family structures, that they are losing their work, or losing their home when they are in transition, or when they have an outing. So that's the reason why a part of the reason why transgender people are experiencing homelessness more. So, and I think it is many of transgender people are not seeking help in the system because they are afraid of being rejected, or they have been rejected also in the facilities. And I think that's a big problem, because or they were sorted out of their official documents, so in facilities for male, because they have like a male identity card or something, and not getting access to women's facilities. I think that's a big point. In Frankfurt, I have to say, because I saw another questions in the box, because of the offices of the city and authorities. I have to say, in Frankfurt, there are many parts of the city authority is kind of aware of the topic. So, and they know us, and they know there are some counseling centers and organizations working with LGBTIQ plus people. I think it's a good structure. So I had few difficulties with authorities or with the city, and with the social services office. We are working with social services office because they are paying. That's also a question I saw. They are paying for our emergency overnight area, and for the apartments, it is another. I don't know how to say this in English. It's like a organization like LWV. It's called Landeswohlfahrtsverband. It's a big organization who he's paying for us for the helping and for the apartments. And we had some discussions with them because of doing the application for admitting the transgender women in our apartments, but it was just at the beginning. So we discussed this. We were making phone calls. We met each other and talked about the topic. And after some weeks of discussing, it was okay. So, and sometimes I have some discussions or trouble with when I'm writing emails or talking about things of the women with the job center, with then they only have registered the people with their official documents, with the name in the official documents. So,
Yes.
and we are talking all the time about, so we always say the names they choose. So, and sometimes it gets a bit, there's sometimes some trouble because of this confusing. So yeah, that's what I can say.
That's great. Thank you. We have some more questions. One is asking how accessible is gender affirming care for trans persons facing homelessness?
I'm not sure if I can understand this.
Not
because
sure.
Yeah, because of I don't know if I understand it in English. That's the reason why I'm thinking.
I think it's the care provided for individuals who want to do transitioning, you know, and whether homelessness is a barrier to that. I would understand this question. Also, does it come with a higher risk having to post HRT?
What does that mean?
I think this is the hormone treatment, but and I think the idea is that how accessible such a care, this gender affirming care for people who are experiencing homelessness is, and
okay, I can see someone translated it in German. Okay. Okay, I see. Okay, it's the axis other way around. Okay. How to the question of how is the axis of the other way around? I'm not really experienced in that, I have to say. And the other question is how the hormones. Okay. So
just maybe another question for me. So those women who are accessing your services and are in transitioning, do they have what kind of care is accessible for them, and is their homelessness, is that a barrier to accessing gender affirming care?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I saw the translation now in German because of the hormones. Yes, it is really a big problem because often the homeless women have no health insurance. So, and without health insurance, they cannot get any hormones. So, and I think it's really a bad situation because sometimes they are getting hormones from like criminal structures, so or drugs from the street. So that's really bad, and it's a big challenge to get. Sometimes they took hormones, even also people who flew from other countries, from Eastern European countries, for example, who had sometimes already were taking hormones and then had to go to another country because of the discrimination and the violence they experience, and so then they're living in the streets or they are homeless and they have no health insurance, and then they are not taking any hormones anymore. So it's a big problem, and they are really suffering because of this. And even if you have health insurance, then you have to know where you can go to get hormones, or where you can go to doctors or to therapists who are specialized to the topic. So, and there are not that many, even if they're in the rural areas in the city in Frankfurt, where there's the big clinic, university clinic, where there's a special like a special doctors and special area where they can go and where they make tests and can get hormones, and there are also some doctors here, but if you have no health insurance, so then you cannot go there. So that's a really big problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. The next question, Natalie, is if you have some examples from your experience in practice, how staff addresses conversations with the trans woman, with what they need to support for in the case of someone's appearance not being read as feminine enough. And do the same conversations happen with cis women?
Okay, I'm not sure if I understand it right. The experience of like talking to transgender women, how to deal with questions or how to deal with other residents. So if there's any experience?
I think it's the question specifically with conversations with trans women.
Yeah.
I don't know how you helping them to they are probably confronted with that very often, not being seen feminine enough, and how do you support them
So, so I think it's the really big support. First of all, is to call them by their chosen name, to call them by their feminine pronouns, to give them just like a space to. I'm always starting my talks to new clients or to new women, also transgender women and cis women too, to ask them how can I say your name, what's your name, what's your pronoun. My pronoun is she, her. So and if you give just this little space to show them that you are aware of this topic, or that you are aware of that it's not always possible for them to say this or to tell this, and that you offer you can say it here. So I'm asking you, so what kind of name would you like to have, or how can what's your name, what should I give you, tell you. So and it's I think that's the biggest support. And and it's like the women themselves often telling then after some time. It always needs some time. And mostly there are also any other problems for who other homeless women also have, we are talking about. So we're not always talking about how, okay, you are transgender women. That's not the only topic. So
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we are talking about all other problems she has, and always including if there is any special need. Sometimes there is no big need to talk about this. So sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. So, and it's always like individual case. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So the next one, now we have quite a few questions. When talking about the different levels of the homeless sector, you mentioned first the workers in different shelters, emergency housing, and then their skill set as well, and then the structural institutional level in terms of the recommendations. What focus do you believe there should be to approach change from a national political level?
A political level. Oh, a big question, big change. Okay. I think, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Germany, they changed last year. They changed the law because of the they make it easier to change name and marital status in Germany. So now it's easier to change this, because before changing the law, it was like a big process by court. It was like you have to go to therapists, you have to do I don't know what's the name. I have to know. I have to have a look for the English word. Like you have psychological expert reports. For as a transgender person to change name and marital status, and this process was taking, don't know, really long. So it was expensive. It was taking really long, and it was like you have to explain by therapists, you have to go to doctors, you have to go to court to change this. And now it is easier because they changed the law, and now you don't have to go to court, you don't have to go to therapists, and I think that's also a step to make the situation better. But there are many more things which are not good even in society. So like the political things right now. We all know, so it's really really hard for transgender people, even especially like in USA or something. It's getting worse, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you work together with, like, as a homelessness sector in Germany, do you work together with the LGBTIQ community to raise awareness and do this kind of joined up advocacy?
Yes, we do. We have just across the street of our facility, there's like a youth counseling center for LGBTIQ youths, but not only youths, so like I think until the age of 27. So we are working together with them. So we are sending transgender women, if they want to go to this counseling center or to this to this place. And we also have an organization, have one, two, three, I think three organizations who are working exclusively with queer people. And in some places, it's for me, it's easy because I know many people in this sector. So then I can also just take the phone and call. So, but if it's more, if facilities more used to work with this topic and getting more connections to other services, so then it will be like the same if you are, I don't know, make a phone call to the organization for, I don't know, to psychologists or to hospitals, or I don't know what kind of organizations we are working with all together. So yeah.
Excellent. Do you have, and I think this next question refers to the last slides that you shared and raised the question on how to create a framework that includes trans women without creating a special treatment narrative within the service.
How to do this?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have really the big answer of this. I'm not sure. I don't think so. But I think it's important to ask the person what do you want? What do you need? So sometimes people telling me, I would like to be with other women. I would like to not to have a focus on this topic. I have other problems. I don't need to talk about this all the time. I would just like to be seen as a woman and want to live with women together in this place. On the other hand, sometimes people would like to, or say they experience many discrimination, they experience kind of violence or something like that, and they would like to have more privacy, and they would like to be on their own, to have to be secure, to have an emotion of security. So, and then they would like to be more on their own. And they don't like to be with other people or other women. So I think we cannot decide for other people. So and if you are aware of this and you are talking to the person and asking, I think that's the first step to give an answer of special or not. So
yes, absolutely. I think that's really important what you mentioned about the choice. It's their choice, and we have to ask them. Absolutely. The next question is about the recommendation to have conversations about how they would feel in the service and how they would like potential conflict to be addressed. I think it's quite similar to what we discussed already, asking, but maybe just to refer to the conflicts or incidents of transphobia. I don't know if it happened in your service, and how was that addressed, or what would you recommend for those who are participating in the webinar but are in mixed services that are not at the stage of inclusivity. I think that's obviously most services have a zero tolerance to homophobia, transphobia, but then if you have any guidance on how to address a situation like that.
I have to say, but we have to be aware of, we are like a really kind of safe space. So maybe that's the reason why it's not. I experience, or I maybe there are some things I don't know. So maybe it will happen, and we are not knowing this. But I can't remember a big issue or big conflict, just like some questions, or just like they were wondering, so what's going on here and who is it and why. But no, there were no homophobic, no transphobic situations I know. But if it would be, so first of all, we are talking to the person who is experiencing this transphobic attack. So first of all, and when women are accessing our facility, and there is always like there are house rules, and we are telling them that we are discrimination-free space, and that we are admitting or accessing women with every background, so like cultural background, gender background. So it's clear, we make clear at the very beginning, so that there are also transgender women. And I think we had it once or twice that other women, when they were hearing this, they were asking, are there transgender women? And we told them we cannot say something about this because it's like privacy, and you just have to be aware that there could be transgender women. And then one or two women decided not to come to our facility. So, but that was just like 2 cases, I think. Otherwise, there was no comment on this. So, and then we have to decide if there's really big conflict. So I would say we are always on the side of the person who is experiencing violence. So then we will tell the other person, so it's not possible to stay because it's not working. So
yeah, absolutely. We have a question on how long the women stay in your accommodation, and what is their journey like afterwards? So where do they move on from your service?
The women in general, or as a?
I think this is general, yeah.
So I try to describe, we have 2 parts in our facility. So one part where it's like the acute emergency area where they can stay up to 10 days. And we have to do something like a clearing where we try to find out what's happening and what help do they need. So sometimes we can send them to other facilities where they're getting a place to live, or where they're getting help, or so that's the one part. And the other part is the area where we have these small apartments, and then there they can stay up to about 2 years. So that's how long normally the organization who is paying for us is paying. So, and it depends on how there's like changing in their lives, or how working steps are going on. So and where they go to normally afterwards, it's really different. So sometimes they're getting some own flats. So that's the big goal we are working on. So, but it's not always possible because first of all, in Frankfurt, there are so few flats and houses. There's no place to live for people who are not earning many money. So it's really a big problem. But sometimes they're getting social flats. Sometimes they're, I don't know, they're going to their partners. Sometimes we have also women who are dealing with their problems all the time, and there's not many. It's not going better, so sometimes they just have to go to social services office where they can get a room because they cannot find another flat or another place to live, and there's not much change in the last 1 year or something. So then they have to leave the house because the financial organization says, okay, there's no changing, so we have to do something else. It's really different. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Natalie. I think we are coming to the end of the webinar. I don't see more questions. We have some comments in the chat box from Annika saying that currently the ruling German CDU says they are calling what you mentioned, Self-Determination Act into question.
Yeah.
That's the reality as well.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yes. And we missed apparently 3 questions. So how does your financiation works? I think you mentioned you got where you got the funding from. I don't know if you want to add something to that. And there's a question on you have conflicts with the city administration. I think you also want to do that.
Yes.
And do you work with women with experiences of sexual assault committed by men? And how does that work with not passing trans women safer space?
That is a topic or a question which is often coming. Yes, for sure we do. We are working with women who experience sexual assault. So many women. And I have to say, in our acute emergency area, where the women have to share the kitchen and the facility at the bathroom, there is more possibility to meet each other and to see each other or interact with each other. So but we had until now not many women in this area who are really at the beginning or who are really read as male. So that should be discussed again and again, because we decided to talk to women who are admitting to be here in this emergency area. First of all, to have a talk or have a chat with the social workers, with me or with someone from my colleagues, to see, okay, what as normally as you are doing this with all other women. So to see what's the problem, what's going on, is it the right place for the person, does it fit into this setting of our house. Sometimes because of other reasons, it's not the setting for this person, sometimes because of psychiatric problems or something like this. So, and then we have to decide, or we will have to decide in future if we think, is it possible to let this person in this emergency area, if we have a good feeling with this. So it's not I think there's no really perfect solution for this. So, but for me, the point is that it's not in general rejected to let them into this place. So, and we have, yeah, for sure, we have things to discuss, because I don't know if how it's working, if there's a women in our place and we are a safe space. So, and surprisingly, there is a person who seems to be a man. I think this will cause a problem. We are really aware of this, so we have to see how it will go it goes in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true that it's one of the key concerns often that have been brought to our attention too. Well, I would like to thank you, Natalie, for being here this morning.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
It was a great, and I have. I'm looking at the chat, and you have. Thank you from Ireland as well. They thought that the webinar was very insightful, and I think it was a great example how you put those recommendations into practice in your service, and I certainly think that will be inspiring for others as well. I'm going to share the presentation. There was a question about that as well, and all the links and studies you mentioned. Vance also has some resources that we can share with you. And thank you, Natalie, again, and thank you for everyone participating. If you have any questions that you were not able to ask, but would like to hear from Natalie, please send them to me, and I will pass them on to her. Our next webinar will be on the 8th of July, and it will be on pregnancy, supporting pregnant women experiencing homelessness, and we will have a best practice example from Ireland. You will find the link on our website. Thank you again for everyone, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.